Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a different setup today. Yeah, no, not entirely planned. I was playing around with a new setup, and in the process, I managed to drop my regular webcam. So, what I'm using here is actually my high definition camera. And yeah, I'm not so sure it works all that well in that respect as a webcam. If it's recording directly, it takes much better pictures than as a webcam. Anyway, so, uh, America, America, where the rich get rich and the poor get sodomized. All right, so they come up with a $2 trillion bailout package, you know, an economic stimulus. So, what most people are planning on, are hoping for here, is about a $1,200 check out of this. And that would be all well and good, but, um, you know, consider the price of this. Okay, if the cost of that $2 trillion comes out to over $6,000 for every single man, woman, and child in this country. Okay? Not every man, woman, and child in this country is going to be getting a check. Now, add that $2 trillion on top of the existing national debt, which is $23 trillion. And when you add that all together, that comes out to $75,758 worth of debt for every single man, woman, and child in this country. Now, I'm using rough numbers, but, try and pin down real numbers. It's arguable, whatever. Anyway, so no matter what, of the $2 trillion, 80 to 90% of that is going to be going to bail out Wall Street, businesses, corporations, no matter what. And even that isn't enough. Right? Okay, 23 trillion plus 2 trillion, and then the Federal Reserve has expanded the balance sheet to 4.5 trillion, and that is all debt in the form of treasury bonds that the Federal Reserve buys up. So, treasury bonds are nothing but IOUs from the government. So, some people believe that the stock market rising yesterday was some kind of a sign of recovery. Nothing is further from the truth. The keep in mind the same conditions still exist that brought the stock market to its knees. All right? Oil is still under $30 a barrel. It went up. Brent crude went slightly above 30 yesterday, but it's right back down below 30 right now. There are millions of people not working, millions upon millions more that have their hours reduced. The supply chain is still disrupted. The store shelves are still empty. All right? Profits are not improving. There is no reason for the stock market to be rising except for being bailed out. And what is going to happen from there? Well, it's like I said, it's an ATM for the rich. The Federal Reserve pumps money in, and the rich withdraw the money. I expect to see the stock market plummet again today and tomorrow. If you see any kind of a rise, it's because of a bailout, but eventually it's going to drop again. You know, when we hit 18,000, some sources said that the stock market would decline by 40%. When you hit 18,000, when we're coming down from 30,000, 18,000 is 40%. If it happens to drop down to 15,000, then we've hit a full 50% decline in the stock market. But screw the stock market, screw the corporations, screw the rich. All right? The Federal Reserve has been bailing out the repo market for months. And then on top of this, they announced what literally comes down to unlimited quantitative easing. So on top of the bailout of the repo market and expanding the balance sheet, they have announced that they will, one, expand the balance sheet even further, which means buying even more treasury bonds. That means more federal debt. All right, increase the funding available to the repo market. Even more. I heard as much as $1 trillion per day available to the repo market. Now, those are supposed to be short-term loans to failing banks. They've already dropped the reserve requirement for these banks to zero. They don't have to keep 1 penny in reserve to be loaning out money. So there's no insurance. If a bank fails, they have no reserve. There is nothing there. Okay? So they are now considering buying directly into ETFs, exchange traded funds. That means that they will invest in funds that buy corporate bonds, which is corporate debt. All right, so that's an indirect way of buying up corporate debt. So, this is only 1 degree away from directly bailing out the corporations. In fact, directly bailing out the corporations would likely be less costly and more efficient because that would involve fewer fees to financial firms. So, when you add up everything being done to assist corporations and the stock market as opposed to the funding allocated to bailing out regular human beings, ultimately the ratio is more than 100 to 1, with real human beings just being left in the dust. I will state that the Democrats are attempting to include provisions in their proposed bailout that prevent corporations from using any money provided to bail out corporations so that corporations cannot use this for stock buybacks. Well, let's see how that works out. At one time in our history, stock buybacks were completely illegal until Reagan removed that regulation. And it was illegal because it would result in exactly what we've seen in the last few years, which is market manipulation. So maybe the Democrats need to consider reinstating that regulation. That would be a good thing. But no matter what, the Democratic the Democrats' proposal still provides more corporate funding for corporations than it does for regular human beings. There is literally no reason for bailing out the majority of corporations at all. The corporations which are critical infrastructure, will survive. Utilities and so forth. And but all of them across the board would be better served by providing assistance to consumers that utilize their services or goods, what have you. And by assisting consumers, the effect of any economic stimulus would be much longer term. The corporations would eventually receive most of this money, because consumers spend the money mostly at corporate venues. So you would be helping the corporations. It just wouldn't be directly. The way this is happening, right now, consumers are going to incur massive amounts of debt during this crisis, which will leave them in financial crisis and, pardon me, possibly financial failure when all of this is over. These utilities and so forth are not forgiving any bills. They're just saying they're not going to cut off your utilities. Landlords are saying we will not evict you during this time, but the debt continues to pile up, and you will still have to pay it. So if they were handing real citizens real money instead of handing it to the corporations, we would be able to pay our bills, and that way, we pay the bills, the corporations profit. We spend it how we see fit, how we see necessary. A universal basic income would be the best way to get through this crisis. But that's not going to happen. And hold on a minute. I have no idea who that is. All right. So, anyway, and when this is all over, if they did this, consumers would be able to return to their normal earning and normal spending patterns when it was all over, when jobs are opening up again and so forth and so on. And they would not incur this massive debt. All of this goes to illustrate that both major parties of Congress are in the pockets of Wall Street, and normal citizens are nothing more than tertiary concerns to them. They don't care whether you're going to wind up homeless. They don't care if you're going to wind up in debt or bankrupt or, winding up with massive medical bills that you're paying on for the rest of your freaking life. They don't care about that. They're interested in providing your money to corporations, which are their big donors and that spend huge sums of money on lobbying and provide, the Beltway revolving door for elected officials that go between the, elected office and then they go into lobbying or, multi-million dollar jobs working for the corporations. You know, what the heck happened here? All right. Excuse me, I was on a different screen and did not see myself turn all kinds of red. All right. Yeah, I've got to get a new webcam here. So, for the most part, this is my. When I started, it was my normal coloring. And now I just look like some kind of a demon. Anyway, so this bailout is really all show. And it doesn't really help real human beings. You know, it doesn't help you, it doesn't help me. You know, it helps the corporations. All right, if you can afford to, you know, spend and donate $1 of your $1,200 check per month to help me expand the channel, then I would appreciate it very much. I'm still trying to keep this expanding and get more information out there. And that's it for today. I hope you have a good day.